Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode with Dr. Lubaina. We are truly honored to have Dr. Lubaina with us today. She is a consultant intensivist with the NHS UK, originally trained in India, where she completed her master's in anesthesia and has since gone on to pursue several prestigious fellowships in the UK. Dr. Lubaina is also the author of The Good Death Project, and she's a passionate coach helping many young professionals find clarity and direction in their careers. Dr. Lubaina, thank you so much for being here and a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Ashwini. Thanks for that wonderful introduction.
Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, before we start this session, I really loved a line you wrote in one of your LinkedIn articles, which said something like share, support. I think this line really stayed with me. At Go Campus, our career development platform is built on the same core values. Choosing a career path, especially in medicine, is one of the most important decisions I guess anyone can make. Now, we believe in creating a space where doctors can speak their truth, share their journey, support each other, and of course, ultimately succeed. Our vision is to build a strong community where experienced professionals mentor and uplift the aspiring doctors. So, after this episode, if you would like to connect with Dr. Lubaina for a one-on-one consultation, you can book directly at www.gocampusworld.com. So over the past few days, we've gathered the most frequently asked questions and we will do our best to address as many of them as possible with Dr. Lubaina's insights today. So in this episode, we will be covering anesthesiology as a career choice, that is the challenges in it, maybe an overview of it. We're also going to talk about how to build a standout CV for the UK fellowships and the training positions. We are also going to talk about common mistakes IMGs, that is international medical graduates, make during interviews. And let's see if the time, if we have time, I'm sure we can also request doctors to talk about how to avoid those mistakes. We're also going to talk about recognizing and preventing burnout in medicine. So we're also going to talk about taking your first steps into leadership early in your career. So we're also going to talk about understanding the CESR pathway for becoming a specialist in the UK. That's because we've been getting many requests from doctors, especially specialists who've done MD in India or even some doctors who've done DM who are asking us how to explore what are my chances in the UK in terms of critical care or anesthesia. So we will talk a bit about it. And also we're going to talk I think this is one of the burning question at this point of time, is now a good time to consider the UK for training or for the short stint of experience or for migration? So these are the questions that we're going to cover in this episode. So thank you so much, Doctor, for being here with us today. Over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ashwini. Yeah, I think there are a lot of things that people are considering these days. I will start with a little bit of an intro about me. So you rightly said I've done my MD in anesthesia in India. I've done most of it from Gujarat. And then I went on to do my intensive care fellowship in India as well. And after coming to the UK, I took the PLAB pathway, which is usually the most common pathway that most the junior doctors take. But when I was planning to come here, I didn't know that I could be exempted if I had a European qualification. So I took all the things that I was not supposed to do, and then I finally ended up here. So should I speak about anesthetics as a career?
Yes, doctor, because as I said, many doctors are confused about choosing the specialty. Some feel anesthesia is very taxing, like it's very toxic. Some say, no, it is a great specialty. So if you can just shed a little light on it.
Of course. So I think anesthesia as a specialty is usually considered by people who are not very good at being on the patient side. So you're not going to create a rapport with the patient because you're mostly seeing the patient when they're unconscious. So I think people who are a little bit scared about a lot of conversations with the patients upfront, they choose anesthesia. Also, as a field, anesthesia is an evolving specialty with lots of subspecialties and lots of other non-clinical aspects that you learn when you become an anesthetist. So I took anesthesia because I was more interested in having a work-life balance, which, well, now I don't have. But when I took anesthesia, I think the driving factors for me was, one, it is a high-impact role. So it's not just a behind-the-scene role. As an anesthetist, you are also the leader of the research team. You're also helping your surgeons with all the anesthetics. You are doing regional anesthetics. You are doing transfers. You are doing critical care transfers as well. You are helping your critical care colleagues in difficult procedures. You are helping them with a lot of deteriorating patients. In the UK, to be honest, anesthesia is one of the better accepted specialities by many of the trainees, and lots of people want to become anesthetists. I think the main benefits of being an anesthetist is it includes a variety of practices. So you are not only dealing with a general anesthetic, you are also a leader, you are leading a research team, you are going to the ED and wards, and you're reviewing patients and picking up the deteriorating patients and bringing them up to ICU. There is usually a 50-50 rota where, as an anesthetist, you're also given some shifts in intensive care. So I think that's a good mix of both. Anesthesia gives you opportunity to develop your team working skills. It gives you an opportunity to develop yourself as a leader. And personally, I think anesthetists can choose quite a lot. So they can choose what work hours they want. They can choose flexi hours. They can choose predictable hours in elective practice. And they can also choose high stakes environments like critical care if you're getting bored of the monotony of anesthesia. On top of everything, I think it is a well paying job. It also has job security because surgeries are always going to happen. People are always going to go under the knife, and they will always need an anesthetist in front of them to either make them asleep or monitor them or do something else if a complication happens. So I think anesthesia as a branch, I would say it's a very good branch to take. And it opens up quite a few doors eventually. So you can then subspecialize in things like pediatric anesthesia, you can go to intensive care, you can practice pain medicine, which I think is a very lucrative branch. And I've seen a lot of pain clinicians in India who are running their own clinics and hospitals. So it's a very, very specialist branch of anesthesia, and you can go ahead and do it if you're interested. You can do regional anesthesia as a niche specialty within anesthesia. So I think it's a very good branch for youngsters. It also gives you a little bit of that adrenaline push if you need some in your early years of life, and then later on you can go into administrative and more elective lists and things. Challenges you would face if you take anesthesia, as with any other medical branch in today's world, it is a high responsibility. You are dealing with lives, you are dealing with vulnerable patients in their most vulnerable moments, which is when they are unconscious and they are undergoing a major surgery, to be honest. So it is stressful, but it will also give you a lot of job satisfaction at the end. There is limited patient exposure in certain branches of anesthesia. There is less long-term follow-up. So people who are more interested in medical aspects of things, they get less to do in anesthesia than in medicine. There may be unpredictable rotas when you are training in anesthesia. So you will be doing on-calls. They can be intense. You might be posted in trauma or obstetrics or ICU, which can become a very stressful environment to work in. Sometimes you are exposed to high risk situations as well. For example, during COVID, anesthetists and intensivists were at the brink of everything. So they were facing the frontliners in all these medical emergencies. So of course you are involved in managing all kinds of crises, difficult airways, critical deterioration of patients, and even life-threatening events. So it is a high-stakes environment. It can give you a little bit of burnout, mental and physical fatigue as well. But then again, there are lots of support systems available, at least in the UK, where you can look after your well-being as well as look after your patients, and you can overcome that fatigue that happens. So when you choose anesthesia as a specialty, there are a lot of factors that you should kind of balance against what your priorities are. And then only you should step into anesthesia because it will demand a lot of your time and energy.
Thank you so much, doctor. I think that was anesthesia overview. I mean, this were all the doctors who are confused about taking anesthesia in India or not, or even for doctors who are in the UK. Because we know many doctors out there after PLAB, when they get into first job of non-training, then later when they start applying for specialty training, even they have the same confusion with specialty to try. Should it be IMT? Should it be CST? Should be ST1. So it was a lot of insight. Thank you, Doc. So the next one that we're going to look through, because this is what most of you wanted to know, because understanding currently many doctors are not getting interviews. So they all feel, is there something wrong in the CV? Like, why am I not getting an interview? Is something wrong with my CV? So they all go with CV reviews. They try to get it reviewed by a consultant who's working there, or they would approached many companies who can just review the CV and get back. Even then, they tell us, I did everything that's possible to make my CV better, but even then, I'm not getting any interview. So, if you can just tell us how to build a standout CV and what is really important in a CV.
So I think I'm going to speak from the perspective of UK, because I think most of the people who come to the UK come from other parts of the world, and there are different systems operating in different parts of the world. So where one CV works, it may not work in the UK. It may demand a little bit of a different approach to making up your CV. And I think I've kind of shortlisted from amongst 50 plus applications for interviews. And the common mistakes that I see in the CVs is that they are too prolonged, they are too vague. Sometimes they are like big essays. So when it comes to CV, my advice to people is keep it as concise and precise as possible. Start with your name and introduction and your contact details. If you are GMC registered, mention that at the top of your CV and put your GMC number on top of your CV. I think going forward, the structure remains the same as for any other job interview. You will start with your qualifications, you will give your previous experiences, and then you will give everything in a chronological order. What I prefer in a CV is if it is bulleted, if it is very concise, because the attention span of a shortlisting person is very small. So the catchy things that happen in the CV is how you are highlighting the main things that you want to highlight. For example, if you've done something in research, highlight it in bold points. If you've done something in teaching, if you run a teaching program, highlight that in bold points. So I think that is very important, keeping your CV as concise as possible, as chronological as possible. The things that are specific for the UK, and this may not be specific for India, is there is not too much impetus on describing the skill set or describing the procedures that you know. We will know if we are shortlisting you, and if you've read through the application, we will know that you know a certain set of procedures and skills. Okay. So that does not need to be mentioned in the CV, because it just elongates the CV beyond what it's needed to be. So what we want to see from you is what are your basic qualifications? What are your additional qualifications? Because these are the desirable and essential criteria that the shortlisters look at. The second thing that we will look at is what have you done other than your medical experience. So non-clinical bits and pieces are very important in UK applications, at least, because they carry a chunk of the shortlisting marks as well. So things like quality improvement projects, leadership skills, things like research participation, things like teaching and supervision, anything extra that you've done any other project, you've done anything that is non-clinical and adds into your personal attributes, is something you should highlight in your CV, because those do give you marks. They make your application stand out. Are also important is additional qualifications. So many of the CVs that I've seen, they don't mention, or they have not done the additional qualifications before they apply for a job. So having ALS, having an additional qualification like MRCP or MRCS, anything that you've done from the UK or from any European country, it does make you stand out. It does give you an edge over other people in similar positions. So if you've done any of those, even if you've done, say, just the first part of MRCP, and if you're waiting for the second part to happen, mention that in your CV. That shows that you are committed to that particular branch of medicine. The other things that we also look at is how the CV flows. So sometimes we've seen that people write about their experiences and then they follow it up immediately with a long paragraph of things that they must have done during that experience. We do not need to know that. We just need your experience. So make your job title stand out. Make your job title as precise as possible. Supposedly, you've done a registrar job. Just write that you've done a specialist registrar job in a neuro-intensive care. Make it precise and make it stand out. You don't have to describe what you would have done, all the things that you would have acquired in neurocritical care, because we would know from that one line that you must have done all those things. The other thing that I also tell people when they apply for jobs, please do read the person specification and job descriptions. Sometimes people apply for jobs that they will not be ever shortlisted for because they do not meet any of the essential criteria. So please do go and read the job description and the person specification before you apply for any job. Having 100 weak applications or 100 weak CVs as opposed to one strong CV, I would go with the one strong CV. So instead of just beating around the bush and bluffing around and just putting applications in all the jobs available in the market, just concentrate on one and strengthen your CV in a way that it stands out, highlighting the points that you want to, but not describing everything. Just keep it as short as possible. And that's my advice for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, doctor. So moving ahead with the next question. So when we inform our doctors, it's important they get into leadership roles as early as possible in their career, because they feel that why should we do this, or what is the importance of this? So can you just kind of shed some light on it? Why is getting into leadership role important in the early career?
Yeah. So I think I'll explain it from a perspective of, say you are becoming a consultant in the UK at the very end of your journey. But what is expected of you is to be a good leader. And from a good leader, it doesn't really mean that just be a good clinical leader. You are also supposed to be leading a ward round. You are supposed to be leading the multidisciplinary team. You're supposed to be involving in projects. You're supposed to be involving in quality improvement. You're supposed to be involving in patient safety initiatives. So I think if we start doing these things much early in our career, then as we progress into a consultant job, it becomes much easier and it becomes part of the process for us. So when I was in India and was training for was doing my training in anesthetics, nobody told me how important it was to take up leadership roles. Nobody told me how important it was to develop the skill, to develop the communication skills, to take a team together and work together. So I think that is very important, especially in my discipline, anesthetics and intensive care, but for every other doctor as well. When you transit to the UK, it is a very big step forward for you in your career. Also, because it's not just clinical. In India, we are told you come, you treat the patient, you go home. But in the UK, there is a lot of other things involved. So you are expected to lead as a teacher, you are expected to lead as a supervisor, you're expected to lead as a project manager. You're expected to do bed management. You're expected to do conflict resolution. So there are a lot of things that you need to develop as a leadership role in order to then progress in your career in the UK. Just knowing your clinical skills is not going to cut it, and it will not help you progress in your career. So I think what we can do at a junior level to develop our leadership skills is not just courses and CPDs. Most of them don't work if you're not applying them in your workplace. The little things you can do is take up, say, if your unit organizes some kind of a teaching program, take up a lead and become the organizer for that teaching program. Ask your consultants if you can organize a little project. For example, find out how your antibiotic prescription practices are, find out if you are actually following the guidelines, find out what you can do to make people follow the guidelines, and then that's an audit. That's a quality improvement project for you. So you do something that helps your organization to do better in terms of patient management, in terms of patient safety and delivery of services. And you can use that as an evidence of your leadership skills. Not just that, there are lots of people who are running courses, you are doing seminars, you are mentoring, you're supervising your juniors. All of that comes under leadership. So try and gather all that evidence when you are actually doing those things instead of just taking it for granted that you've helped somebody. Fine, you've helped somebody, but then take a feedback from them. Did they like your help? How did they like your help? What can you do better? Use that feedback to then develop yourself as a leader. What can you do better next time if you were in the same position? Start reflecting on your own practice. Start collecting start sharpening your personal attributes like, say, difficult communications. If you ever get in, say, a complaint, how did you manage that complaint? How did you write and reflect about it. I think all those reflections, because I had been doing it from a very early time in my life, I had a big bunch of reflections that I'd done. And all of that counts towards your evidence when you start applying for jobs, when you start applying for training posts, or even when you're applying for a consultant job in the UK or going through an alternative pathway like CESR. All of those things that you do in your usual practice, start gathering that, start reflecting on that, and start using them as an evidence of your skill build up. So leadership is not just leading somebody. Leadership is also taking everybody together, doing things together, having a collective effort and making a change, making a difference in wherever you work. It could be a small difference, doesn't matter. It could be a big difference, doesn't matter. But if you've made any difference and if you want to take that initiative forward, then that's where you become a good leader. And you should take these initiatives. If you are given any additional role while you are doing your training in India or when you're doing an SHO job in India, if you're given any additional role, just grab that opportunity and go for it. If somebody asks you to help them with the rota management, yes, I'm ready. I'll do that for you. So these are the opportunities that will come in your way, but you have to grab them. You can't just be going there, treating patients and coming back home. That's not what doctors do these days. It's a completely different scene in medicine these days. So I think those will be my primary things that you would do for leadership and developing your skills as a leader.
Thank you, Doctor. I think the next important question that we would like to ask you is, because we do have many requests from specialists who they don't want to repeat the whole training program over there because they've already done their specialty training back home here. So they're keen to know how should they start or what is the pathway ahead for them.
So there are a couple of things that we can do as specialists in India. So when I came here, I had already finished my critical care fellowship. So I came here when I was on the brink of becoming a consultant back home. But then I had to start from a scratch when I came back because I didn't know what pathways existed. But now, after 7, 8 years of toiling and researching my own things, I have come to know that there are alternatives available. So I've been helping quite a lot of people with their portfolio pathways, which is what CESR used to be. So CESR, or portfolio pathway, is meant for specialists back home or IMG specialists who do not want to undergo a whole training pathway, but they can just use the evidence that they've collected and prove an equivalence to the curriculum that they follow here in the UK. What that essentially means in simple terms is whatever you do back home, collect evidence for everything, and then you submit an application alongside all that evidence, and they will then review your application against the curriculum that they follow here for the specialty training in that particular discipline. And then if you meet all the criteria, then you don't have to undergo any further training or rotations, and you can progress onto the specialist register and become a consultant right away. But this is not that easy, and it takes a lot of effort. It is very time consuming. It needs a lot of organization as well. So what I usually suggest so there have been a few intensive care doctors who got in touch with me through LinkedIn and wanted to know what the process is. So the process is, if you are a practicing consultant back in India, I would suggest start collecting the evidence right there. Open GMC, figure out what your specialty specific guidance is for portfolio pathway. Go and read that guidance. It's a long document. It's a very, very long document, but it will give you an idea of what kind of evidences they need from you to prove that you can work as a consultant in the UK. This is essentially what they want. Now, this evidence spans through 30 different categories. You can start collecting it back home. You can start collecting things like make a logbook of the patients that you see on a regular basis. Start collecting clinic letters. Start collecting evidence of your rota. Start collecting CPDs, courses, anything that you teach, presentations, feedbacks. So anything and everything you do back home can be used as evidence for proving equivalence. Even things like if you are a consultant in, say, a multidisciplinary team, if you're doing a meeting, collect the meeting minutes, write it down somewhere what was discussed. That can be used as an evidence. If you are heading a particular unit, if you are doing other people's appraisals, if you are doing other people's supervision, write all of that down, because what is not written is not considered done, and what is not signed is not considered authentic. So I would say start gathering your evidence. And once you're ready, and once you know what your eligibility is, and you've met that eligibility criteria, then you start your application with the GMC. Now, the process follows up from that application is that it takes almost a year or a couple of years for the application to go through, making sure that you've done all the rotations or all the experiences that they are asking for that particular specialty. So, for example, in intensive care, they want experience from pediatric intensive care, from cardiothoracic intensive care, from neuro intensive care. They want experience from resus. They want a lot of other things that you should have done. You should have done anesthesia experience. You should have done medicine experience, because these are all the rotations that a usual UK trainee would have done here over a span of 6 to 8 years to then become a consultant. So if you can show that you've already done all those experiences and you've got enough evidence to prove that you've done those things, you've got supervisor letters from those areas that you've done your rotations in, then I think that's pretty much enough to start a strong application. And then once you submit the application, they come back and tell you what is deficient in the application. So then you can fill in the blanks and you can get more evidence. But I think it is very important that whatever work you do back home, you collect and start gathering evidence for that. Because I think portfolio pathway is essentially the strongest area that can get you a consultant post as quickly as you want. Training is another option, but training is very long, very exhausting, and it doesn't give you any additional skills than you already don't know. So it is a de-skilling process, and it takes a very long time. It causes a lot of, displacement from places, because you never know where your training post will be. So you will have to move with the family all around the country, wherever your rotation is. So I think that's very exhausting for somebody who's already done their specialty training in India. And I think we have capacity and we have the capability of gathering all that evidence and proving equivalence even before we move here. So I think if you are thinking about moving to the UK as a specialist doctor, then come prepared with all that evidence, or at least come prepared with people who will help you gather all that evidence if you were asked to. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And it takes a very long time, and it is a very exhausting process. Yes.
So when we say long time, doctor, does it take kind of, let's say, I know each application is different, but if I have to just give a timeline, will it be 1 year, 2 year, more than that? What is your say on it?
So if you come in with a very strong application, I think they process it really quickly. And if you meet all their expectations, then some people have had their applications processed within 6 to 8 months, and they got a decision on it. But this is when they had done all the rotations as they were asked, they had gathered all the evidence, and they had perfect applications. Mostly, the applications will not be perfect because you wouldn't know unless you've got a mentor. So what happens is, when I started in 2017. For a couple of years, I didn't know what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to go in training or whether I would go through the CESR pathway. And then I started collecting my evidence in 2019, and I did all the rotations here in the UK. Pediatric intensive care for 6 months, cardiothoracics, neurointensive care, but I did it in my own sweet time. So I took breaks in between. I did it like at a leisurely pace. So it took me years to finish. But my colleagues who have actually done it properly have completed all the rotations and applied for CESR within 2 years and got a result within 6 months of applying. So 2.5 years, 3 years max. But if you come with a robust evidence base from back home, then your application gets processed pretty quickly.
Okay, done. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for it. Was, I think, so it's a very good explanation. Thank you. So I think now one of the most frequently received question, because even when we meet parents here, when doctors come here, I think this is the most in demand topic at this point of time. Doctors want to know is this the right time to move to the UK? Or to try for a job in the UK, or to start even with that pathway preparation, exam preparation, and all that? Is UK good at this point of time for doctors?
I think the answer is yes and no. Yes, because it's never a bad time to try and progress in your career. Even if you're planning to move to another country, that's fine. If you have the motivation to do it, and if you are ready to face the consequences of it, then I think it's never a bad time. For the UK, currently, in the current political scenario, to be more honest, I don't think it's a good time for junior level doctors to come to the UK. So there is a lot of job saturation. You are not getting enough vacancies, which used to be there pre COVID. There is a lot of clamping of IMGs coming in. PLAB pathway does not give you a guarantee to a job in the UK anymore, which it used to a few years back. And now they're coming up with more and more rules where most of the jobs are being given to the local candidates, the local trainees and whatnot. But I don't think that is going to happen, that is going to continue for a very long time, because there are long gaps and long vacancies everywhere in the country. So if they say they cannot get IMGs to fill those gaps in, I would say they are lying and it's a political agenda. They still have a lot of vacancies which can be filled by IMGs. But then again, there is this caveat to it that they give these jobs to more experienced clinicians. So you may be, if you are, say, post MBBS, post PLAB, post GMC registration doctor, you might be competing with a senior post MD, post MD, post DM senior doctor who has come in through an exempted pathway through GMC registration and is competing for the same job. So I think common sense prevails and they would go for the senior person, because in that way they get more work done at a lower salary, and NHS wants to save money. Even in my case, when I applied for my first job, it was an SHO job, but I was too qualified for it. So I was competing with three other people who were just new post MBBS, post GMC registration, and I was competing with them. And obviously, I got the job because then I was doing the work of a consultant at the salary of an SHO. So I think that is a big factor that is preventing junior doctors who want to come here and train here from coming here and actually getting jobs here. So it's a saturated market, I would say. But then again, if you want to compete for it, if you have the right kind of mentoring for it, if you know the right people, and if you have a strong CV, I think there is still a chance to compete. I've had recent calls and mocks with a lot of people who are continuing to give more and more interviews despite not getting selected for it, because they have that motivation. They just want to get into NHS by any means possible. And there is no other means but to sit for the interviews, apply for the jobs, and wait. So if you are financially, emotionally, physically, morally prepared to give that time, that energy, that money into this waiting, then you might get a job. But again, there are no guarantees. So I would say maybe now is not the right time to make your move, but you can start preparing for the move. Subsequently, when in the next couple of years, they will come back to their senses and say, well, we have open doors and let all the IMGs come in because we are struggling. And I'm pretty sure that is going to happen. This is a cycle that repeats every 5 years, and this will repeat again in the next couple of years. So if you are looking forward to coming here working in the NHS, start preparing yourself. Don't get so hellbound on making the move now, but make your CV competitive enough that when you are ready to make the move, you have everything for a backup. So what I keep telling everybody is have a plan B always. Even if NHS is your plan A, that's fine. Have a plan B, work on plan A as you are pursuing your plan B.
So that was really, 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 I think, very good for doctors. I think they got a very clear picture at least know what they have to do. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Now, I guess we've taken up most of the questions that you all had sent us. It was about CESR, it was about the job, it was about the CV, it was about the interview. I guess we've covered it, and Doctor has given really a very long time to this. Now, you all know where to go if you wish to book one-on-one session with the doctor for more detailed discussion and for more personalized discussion, because what we have now is very generalized kind of a talking, because each application is different, each person's requirement is different. So if you want to have a talk with doctor one-on-one, please directly log into www.gocampusworld.com and kindly book a session with doctor. Now, I think just one last question, doctor, because I know you're a very avid reader, writer. If there is one poem or book that you want all doctors to read, or like if you want to suggest them some book or poetry, whatever that is must for them, what would it be? Like, what do you suggest to them?
So I would suggest the book Being Mortal by Atul Gawande.
Okay.
I think it's an absolute must read for anybody who is either in medicine or who wants to get into medicine or who eventually wants to progress in medicine. I think it's one book that tells you what medicine doesn't teach you, what clinical medicine doesn't teach you. It teaches you that medicine is not bulletproof. Medicine is not there to treat everybody. Sometimes not everybody is treatable. Sometimes you have to say no. Sometimes you have to know your limitations. So I think Atul Gawande has put it in very nice stories. He's written a lot of reflective pieces in that book. And I think we as doctors should never have a God complex that we can treat everybody and everything will be fine at the end, because it never is. And this book is an absolute must read for everybody who is a doctor or who is going to become a doctor. And you will know that it's not easy being a doctor, and it will never be.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a great episode indeed. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ashwini. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.